This is a story that I wrote last month when I was the artist in residence at the Ace Hotel in Manhattan. It's called Explainers. Only a few people know that the Ace, for which the Ace Hotel in New York is named, is neither a playing card nor a person of extraordinary skill, nor any person named or nicknamed Ace. In fact, Ace was, in the earliest days, I mean the 1880s, when the Marble Collegiate Church was thronged with believers, and Diamond Jim Brady drank with Oscar Wilde at the bar of the Gilsey House Hotel, and the swindler Billy Tracy did good business selling lucky bunco dice, made from what he said were the tusks of Siberian elephants, which, as you might imagine, had to be lucky just to survive, from his saloon on 29th Street, an acronym. ACE stood for the American Council of Explainers, a learned society. Nowadays, the word explainer sums up unpleasant images, of a guy mostly, who's standing a little too close to you and telling you something that you either A, already know, or B, couldn't care less about. This was not the case in the 1880s. So many things hadn't been explained back then. The propagation of light through empty space and the meaning of dreams, the secrets of the atom, the gene, the bedroom, and the Antarctic. The causes of criminality were poorly understood, and the causes of prosperity even more so. No one could say for sure how birds flew, and why people couldn't. No one could tell you why the dinosaurs had all died, or whether it would rain the day after tomorrow. The explainer's job was not to discover the answers to these questions. That was work for scientific men and women, as the example of Madame Curie made luminously clear. But new facts were rushing into the vast empty halls of our ignorance all the time, and someone had to explain them to people, and that was where the explainers came in. They were ministers, professors, businessmen great and small, not a few reformed drunks, and a considerable number of unreformed ones, paper boys and pudgy kids who spent too much time at the public library. They were male and female, black and white, although not integrated. The ACE had a colored division. Old and young, rich and poor. What they had in common was a feeling of urgency. There was so much ignorance in the world. People ought to know how things were, and how they had got to be that way. Many certified explainers began their careers informally, by citing Newton's laws of motion, soon to be upended by relativity, alas, to explain the outcome of a game of pool, or by accounting for their riches with reference to the evolution of beetles and butterflies. However, Trinity College in Hartford offered a master's in explanation from 1886 until 1891, when the American Society of Medical Examiners brought a suit against the college, asserting that Trinity's M.E. degree could be misconstrued as having forensic authority. The college replied that the recipients of its M.E. were uniquely qualified to explain that they were not medical examiners, but they lost the case anyway. The Connecticut Superior Court ruled that Trinity's degree would have to be renamed, at which point the explainers gave up the whole program in disgust. The American Council of Explainers was founded 2 years later, and you won't be surprised to hear that its founding members were alumni of the Trinity program, who believed that their work should have some official status. The story that the ACE was founded in order to explain the dissolution of the Trinity program, that the Council existed first and foremost to explain itself, is apocryphal. In its heyday, which lasted from 1898 to 1911, the ACE had upward of 1,000 members. It offered night and weekend courses in general explanation, as well as seminars in the explanation of machines, luck, books, geology, women, and other facets of human experience and objective reality. It published a newspaper, The American Explainer, and sponsored debates on the explanation-related questions of the day: nature versus nurture, science versus religion, great men versus great ideas, etc. It sent certified explainers to Galveston after the 1900 hurricane, and to San Francisco after the 1906 earthquake, to reconcile the shattered citizens to the ruins of their once proud city. This was perhaps the ACE's greatest moment, even if, or especially because, it resulted in the death of 3 master explainers, all of whom were struck by falling rocks and pieces of brick. ACE members battled ignorance and superstition and fear all across America, and in England too. A French chapter of the ACE was founded but quickly dissolved because you couldn't explain anything to the French. Plans for a German chapter were quickly abandoned. As the world became less and less comprehensible, the ACE met its obscurities and paradoxes with calm resolve. ACE members were the first non-specialists to try to elucidate Einstein's theories of special and general relativity. They held emergency seminars on the death instinct and Dadaism and the causes of the Great War. But they were undone, finally, by a question raised by Mr. Flannery Talcott in a course on the pedagogy of explanation in the summer of 1922. He asked, "Does the need for explanation itself require explanation? In other words, does explanation have to be explained?" The instructor dismissed the question as juvenile, but the seed of doubt which Talcott had planted could not be dug up. If everything could be explained, which was the premise of the ACE and its raison d'être, then surely there must be an explanation for explanation. But in that case, as Talcott was quick to point out, there ought also to be an explanation for the explanation of explanation. Always, he said, at the bottom there must be something unexplained, or else there is no bottom, and nothing is truly explained. The ACE's leadership expelled Flannery Talcott and his followers. Explanation, the leaders said, was a practical activity. It was a good in itself. Asking why things needed to be explained was as dumb as asking why people wanted to be happy, or why they wanted to be rich. The council went on with its classes. It blasted Talcott in the American Explainer, and things might have gone back to normal, except that Talcott and his followers founded a society of their own, the Explanation Research Group. They met weekly in Talcott's Brooklyn Heights apartment and announced that they would publish a 2-volume Principles of Explanation in which Talcott's questions would be sufficiently answered. They raised thousands of dollars from ACE members to cover the cost of building and furnishing a retreat where they could write the book, as well as the costs of printing it. But when 10 years had passed and no publication was forthcoming, the membership wanted to know what was going on. Led by the ACE's president, a group of senior explainers broke into the ERG's spacious and elegant retreat in Woods Hole, Massachusetts, where they found all the fireplaces choked with ash, and on the many writing tables, only a single sheet of paper, which began with the sentence, "Explanation is necessary because," and then, in a different handwriting, "Because why?" and in a third, "Just because." Of Talcott and his followers there was no sign. The raiding party did, however, note that the ERG's yacht, the Petitio Principii, was gone from its mooring. The mystery of Talgott's disappearance troubled the members of the raiding party. They couldn't help feeling that they were missing something, possibly something important, which is a terrible thing for a senior explainer to feel. They returned to New York and went about their business, but without enthusiasm. Fewer and fewer students enrolled in their courses, which were now as full of silence as of speech. Fewer and fewer certified explainers went out into the world with the confidence of their credentials. Indeed, the people who were most interested in explaining things stayed away from the ACE. It had become a gloomy place, as likely to lead you into doubt as to teach you what Shakespeare's sonnets really meant. The ACE disbanded in 1933 without issuing a statement of its reasons for doing so. By then, Billy Tracy's saloon had closed, and so had the Gilsey House Hotel with its silver dollar-studded bar. Only the Marble Collegiate Church was still going strong, under the guidance of Norman Vincent Peale, whose ideas about the power of positive thinking were just a warmed-over version of the principles of explanation which he'd learned next door. The ACE's building on West 29th was rented out piecemeal to novelty goods importers and umbrella wholesalers, second-rate accountants, and third-rate private detectives. The only remaining traces of the council are the letters ACE carved into the architrave of their former headquarters. Someone thought it was a good name for a hotel, obviously. What's strange is that, until now, no one thought to ask why. And that's the story.